We don't have enough time to self-reflect and think what we are doing right, what we are doing wrong. It's just the adrenaline rush that gets us through the entire process. If this is your first role, if you're going to a new company for the first time, I believe you should ask all the right questions to all the right people all the time. I truly believe that the best way for you to look for opportunities with the same company in the future should be to look for roles that you understand right now, or at least have a reasonable understanding of right now, that would yield that sort of a satisfaction in the future. So in the 3 years of my undergrad, I realized that I was inclining a little bit more towards the more creative aspects of management and not more technical aspects. And so I formed this impression in my mind that I would be better suited for something like marketing, or a little bit towards consulting, rather than a more technical field like finance. And so once our summer placement process started, I was more focused on marketing and consulting companies rather than the finance companies. And so few fellow seniors of mine recommended that don't form a preconceived notion or an opinion about these fields. Once you go in these fields, you will realize how different they truly are from what we expect them to be in our undergrad. And so luckily enough, I got an internship before our MBA started in a pharma company in Pune. And so from there I understood a little bit more that finance is not that boring or technical as I thought. So once our summer placement process started, earlier I had been focusing mostly on marketing, but then once I got to know that maybe I can do something here as well, I started with my preparation for finance as well. Covered the basic topics, say the financial ratios, financial statement analysis, then the basics of equity and debt market. If I could be a little bit more specific for all the candidates who are interested in CFA, or they do have an idea of what it is, book 2, 3 and 4 of CFA would essentially cover all the topics that are required for a summer placement process. So most of the bulge bracket firms, say JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, now UBS, all of these companies came to our college for the summer placement process. Once the company came to our college, we had an assessment test. From there we got shortlisted for some workshop rounds. From there we had a GD, and from there we had an interview. In all of these processes, a baseline understanding of finance was required, and more importantly, whatever they taught with respect to that role was valued a lot more, as they focused their attention on how much interested we were. So they were essentially gauging that not only were we interested in finance as a domain, but we were also interested in the specific role that they came here for. So throughout these rounds, I realized, this is something I can genuinely do. And so I focused a lot more for this specific role, and I prepared for it from all our colleges finance materials, and most importantly from whatever they taught in the workshop. And I was fortunate and lucky enough to get in. The reality is that we never know when it's enough, and the entire process was honestly just a blur. When these rounds go on, we don't have enough time to self-reflect and think what we are doing right, what we are doing wrong. It's just the adrenaline rush that gets us through the entire process. And so I honestly feel that if you are interested in a role, that if you feel like this is the place that you really need to go to, then you will work hard, and then all of these rounds are attainable enough. So once I paid attention in the workshop, I understood the basics of what was going on. Then once we went for the GD, they gave us it was essentially related to whatever we discussed in the workshop. I didn't face too much difficulty there, because despite people who had cleared CFA were sitting beside me, I realized what they were looking for more was not the hardcore technical aspects of finance, but rather whatever they taught us for this role. So I held my ground, and I just answered all the questions that they were asking, and I participated in the discussions. And even in the interview, when I was asked about this role or about why I want to join JP Morgan, I was very clear about one thing: it's a big company, it's a good company, everybody knows that. But what interested me the most was this role, and so I prepared for it. And you can ask me any questions if you want, and I feel that is how the process went comparatively smoothly. Like at any point of time, I didn't feel like there was any hiccup or I faced any difficulty per se with respect to my limited knowledge of finance. So I feel for a lot of students, like for a lot of people with whom we discussed it later on, people usually feel that you need a lot of technical understanding of finance, and you need to say clear CFA in order to even sit for these roles and all. I feel like while that would obviously be beneficial, it's not if people have not cleared it, it does not mean that you cannot get in. You can get in if you are interested enough and if you prepare your basics well enough. If I start from the beginning itself, one of the primary things that caught my attention in the company itself was the culture. Everybody was extreme. There is a very flat hierarchy. There is an open desk culture. So we got a lot of exposure by just sitting on random benches every day. One day I might be sitting next to a VP. One day I might be sitting next to an associate. All of them were working on different projects from across the world. And so just by initiating a conversation with them, we get a good idea of what is happening in this division, what is happening in JP Morgan. And secondly, the international exposure that I received, that was the point where I realized, okay, this is the place where I really need to work in the future as well. Every week we had one of these leadership sessions wherein people from US, UK and a lot of other places across the world gave us a thorough understanding of what we were doing, and they gave us an opportunity to have a one-on-one with them. So these were the memories that I will cherish with me forever, because here I really can't explain this or even exaggerate this at all, because hearing about, say, something like the 2008 financial crisis from a person who sat in those board meetings is something that is one of the best experiences that I think I would have had in this summer. So all the projects that I worked on were truly international, and let's just say the exposure was something that made me realize, okay, I definitely made the right decision in my first year. So the three things that made me believe that I could do well in this role in a company this big was, first of all, curiosity. I know it's a very generic term, but I always feel that it's severely underrated. If this is your first role, if you're going to a new company for the first time, I believe you should ask all the right questions to all the right people all the time. Why this is important is because it genuinely elicits a response from those people who are just naturally interested to talk about their work, and it gives them an idea that you are also interested in whatever you are doing. I believe that more importantly than curiosity, again a generic term, hard work. This company was very much focused. They gave us a lot of freedom with respect to a lot of aspects. We didn't have fixed timings per se. We didn't have very long working hours. They didn't believe in us wasting our time in the office. They believed in efficiency, and they believed in us completing our work within a stipulated time efficiently. The second thing would be communication. I believe that in an organization like that, where you are expected to communicate with not just people in your office but with teams all across the world, it is absolutely essential that you know when to speak, what to speak and how to speak. All of these things, and at the same time understand what is going on around you, and just try to keep an open mind with respect to a lot of things. But I believe that the most important thing that a person should look for is their own interest in that role. You honestly would be like, okay, yeah, I have this task, I like this task, I'm interested in this task, I will do this task first, and then I'll think about all the other things I have to do. So I truly believe that the best way for you to look for opportunities with the same company in the future should be to look for roles that you understand right now, or at least have a reasonable understanding of right now, that would yield that sort of a satisfaction in the future. So I believe that if you look at it from that point of view, then it would be a lot more beneficial for both you as well as the company, as well as your future. So I believe that the main point of B School is not to get a placement, but to explore and to understand what are the opportunities that you will be interested in. I believe that in order to sit for these internship opportunities, you need to have an open mind first of all. Don't constrain yourself in these profiles or that profile. I nearly made that mistake, and I'm glad I got out the good way. But I would recommend any student that keep an open mind, explore a lot of opportunities, think about what the role is, not just what domain that role is from. and then in the end, just go for all those opportunities that you feel you will be comfortable in for at least those 2 months, if not the future. Because if you have, say, a good brand, or more importantly a good opportunity, it is something that you will be confident in speaking about. It is something from which you will have a better learning opportunity, and that is something that will help you a lot more in the future as well.